Hi, and welcome back to the She Invest podcast with your host. I am Allie Fugit,
And I'm your host, Carrie Douglas.
and we are She Invest. We are jumping in today, and Carrie and I thought that we would add some value to you guys by some conversations we've been having with some people, and honestly, some personal situations that we are actually going through right now for myself and my husband around foreclosures. And so, hopefully, what we speak about today can help educate someone and also possibly help prevent you from going through certain situations and not knowing, what to do in those. Carrie, you want to start us off on?
Sure. I was having a conversation this morning with a friend who is facing a possibility of foreclosure. And we just started talking a little bit about what the mindset should look like around that. And I think it was really easy for me to talk about this and to, think about it when I'm not the one going through it, right? Like, I know that when I've been in a difficult situation like this, I'm in this like fight or flight, like a very heightened situation. And so it's sometimes harder to, think clearly about those kinds of things. But I think it is a reality for most investors. Like, not every deal is going to go great. And somebody said this morning, to me, like, oh, if I have 10 different things going on and 4 of them don't go well, hopefully the other 6 pull me out of it, right? Like, sometimes that's just how things go. But we were talking about the importance of just keeping the right headspace and not internalizing, and I think this goes back to a lot of like the mindset coaching that I've done that I think is so important. But if you visualize yourself as like the center, like the nucleus of a circle, and then around you there are all these other things kind of placed where it's like, oh yes, I'm surrounded by my family, my faith, my exercise, finance, blah blah blah. Like, there's all these things going around the outside of that circle, and you're at the center. And this project that might be going south is just one thing on the outside of that. Don't let it come into the center of the circle and define you. Don't let it be internalized by you, and don't make it your identity, I guess. And so we would call that like touching it lightly, I guess you could say. And so we were talking a little bit about that, and then I shared some of that conversation at a very high level with Allie, and she said, we're going through something very similar. So that's why we thought we would just talk about it today. So Allie, do you want to share a little bit about what you're going through?
Yeah. Again, hoping that this helps some other people. And for those of you watching, listening, if you have comments or questions about anything that we talk about, like, please throw it into the comments on this live stream, and we'll be able to pull it up and talk to you guys about that and answer your questions. But currently we are actually going through something we've never been through before, and not just a foreclosure, but an illegal foreclosure. And so,
What
an
is that?
illegal for, yeah, yeah. So we're going through an illegal foreclosure, and this illegal foreclosure is when the bank, in our situation, a hard money lender, uh, actually is illegally foreclosing on us before the terms that are actually set in place by our state.
And
I'm
by your
so
contract, probably,
That's right.
right? So
Yes,
so they're going ahead and foreclosing when they don't even have the right to do so, is
exactly.
what I'm gathering. And so, like, I think you said you found out about it because somebody like found it in the paper or something.
Yeah, exactly. So multiple times we got mail in and stating that they hadn't received a payment. So just to set, what we're going through, we actually have we hold the 2 largest accounts with this hard money lender. And so in this aspect, for these 2 different accounts that we're holding, we have 2 projects that we're going in congruence with each other. Therefore, even though they are separate projects, the hard money lender should have treated them as such, and the payments we have documented to them were sent towards each property. Their bookkeeper put all of the payments towards only one of the property. So it looks as if we defaulted, even though
On the
payments were
second
sent.
project.
Yes.
even though
Even though payments were sent in the system to the proper property, right, account, the bookkeeper on their end did not keep it properly. Therefore, they went through and started a legal foreclosure. Now, even though the bookkeeper did that, they are now still illegally foreclosing on us because by our state law, you have to have missed for 90 days. And I'm so sorry. Give me one second.
go for it. So I think you can all tell she's just going through something that is so difficult. And like when you're in this situation, like you're probably in this like state of panic when you first find this out, right? And I think now you've
Yes.
had a little bit of time to adjust and adapt. But I remember you telling me that your team found out about it. Like
Yes.
your employees for your construction
Yeah.
company were hearing about it. Your like the people
Exactly.
who are working with you are finding out about this, and it causes them to question your stability, and did we invest, or are we working for the right person? Should we be concerned?
Yes.
And it wasn't even your fault. It was an error on the bookkeeper's part. So I'm really confused as to
Mhm.
why they're not going back and making that correction. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to state, like, so 90 days is what Georgia policy is, that you would have to have missed a payment before they can start the foreclosure process. Now, by their books, we had only missed one payment because of their bookkeeper. Okay. So they went ahead and started the foreclosure process off of one missed payment, which in itself is illegal for
So
the state of
even
Georgia.
even take out the bookkeeping error, they're still breaking the law.
Yeah, they're still breaking the law either way. So all we wanted initially on this was, obviously, again, this is our first foreclosure process. So yes, that's the initial scare, right? Oh my gosh, what do we do?
Right.
Second thing is, yes, they published something in the paper. Our employees found out about it. They're the ones that called us, and that we didn't even know that it was in the paper, and they called us. So now our name and our company name is listed in the paper for a foreclosure. Additionally, now we have investors on both of these properties. Um, what do we do if our investors find out
Right.
and
Right.
we don't even have the information yet? So that's scary, because that's someone else's money that I'm
Right.
working with.
Right. Right.
And like most people who are in this business and doing this, these are people that you didn't really have a full relationship with prior to an investment, right? It's someone that you had to build a rapport with, and we're still building that full rapport, so they will invest with us again. And yeah, so those were the three big categories I think that scared us the most. Is like, what are we gonna do? Um, is our company going to sink because our employees may not want to work for us because now they think like this pretense has been set?
They think
And
there's
then
something scary, and they're like, "Oh, should I be worried about my job?" Right?
exactly, I mean, we're working on a 40-unit hotel, and they're like, oh, like, am I going to have a job? And like, now one doesn't have to do with the other, essentially, right?
Mhm.
But employees don't see the back end of that, and so I
They
think
just see
that
your
was,
company name in the paper and they're
yes,
concerned, right?
exactly. And so yeah, so like, I guess like the whole conversation I want to have today around this is, and there are steps that we've taken. We have legal counsel, and we're moving forward with that. And we are just trying to get this resolved. And ultimately, and I'll speak to it a little bit later. Like, there are some positives that we've had to allow to come out of this. Um, but I just want to have a conversation around what you can do as an exit strategy in these situations, what conversations you can have with your investors, and what are some different ideas around making it beneficial and still upholding, your promissory note
Yeah.
for your investors and moving forward. Because that's the biggest thing. I think that once once it cleared, right, and we were able to like, once the fog came over and we were able to like literally sit down and categorize it and think through it, it's okay. The biggest thing is our investors. You can foreclose on me all day long. We can get out of that. And again, we have legal counsel moving forward because we do hold that main promissory note with the hard money. But it's, what do we do about our investors? And how do we go about that? So
And that was a similar conversation that I was having this morning with someone, was just about like, okay, if it was just, the individual and a hard money lender, okay, the foreclosure process is not ideal, but that's a strategy that people have used, to just like be done and exit that particular investment, and maybe that just goes south. But there was also a friend who had brought capital to the table as well as that hard money lender. So there's two different parties who were involved, and it's like, how do I make sure that my relationship with this person isn't harmed? And I think one of the really insightful pieces of information that we discussed was just like, don't assume what that other party is thinking, right? So don't assume that the other partners who brought capital to the table are going to be bothered. Don't assume that they won't invest with you in the future. Don't assume that they're blaming you. Maybe they blame the market. They know there's some sort of risk in investing. And so instead of like guessing what they're thinking and assuming that they're going to be frustrated, maybe having a conversation and asking them like, hey, I'd like to make sure you're feeling protected through this process. How are you feeling? And what can I do to help you feel better about this situation? And not throwing yourself, I think the term was like, in front of the moving train to try to protect them, when number one, they were adults too, and they knew there was some sort of risk, but also like, it's not all the fault of the individual who's running the project. Some of it may be market conditions, some of it may be a bookkeeping error in your case, right?
Exactly.
So just making sure that you don't try to over assume responsibility, for things that maybe aren't your fault because you feel bad. And also having a conversation with those individuals who brought money to the table to make sure that you're not assuming that they're really frustrated when maybe they're not. Maybe they want to actually align with you and help support your frustration with the illegal foreclosure, or whatever that might be. So contacting them and having a conversation instead of, keeping it from them for fear that they'll be frustrated.
Right. And that's exactly what we decided to do, right? So like we decided that for us, we want these people to invest with us again, because in this instance, ultimately we weren't at fault, right?
Right.
And so we wanted to make sure that the air was clear on that your money was still and is still protected by us, and we're going to live up, even if we have to go flip burgers, your money is going to be protected with us. And so it was around having the conversation around that with them, like going to them, explaining the process of what has happened, um, going through and telling them like what our new plan is. And it's like, look, we need to know if we can work out new terms with you to get your money back. Because if this company it decides to go through with the foreclosure process, right? And we lose this property, which ultimately, like, just so you guys know that when you are going through this, if you are going through it with hard money, if a home's not selling and this happens, because we're in a tough market right now, if the home's not selling, ultimately, like, you need to make sure you're having the conversation with your hard money. Like, look, this doesn't benefit you at all. Because if you
To
take it over
foreclose.
from me, you're losing money. If you take, you know what I mean? And ultimately, you also need to remember that if that hard money takes that over from you, not only is it a bad deal for them and they're losing money, they can come after you for that money. So you need to make sure that you're continually, if you have this type of process going on, you're having conversations with your hard money lender. You're continually convincing them that this is a bad deal for you if you go through with this. Give me an extension. Can I buy an extension? What can we do to get this thing sold? How can you help me? Do you have strategies you're willing to offer? Like,
Yeah.
continually
Ultimately, lenders
showing.
don't want to foreclose because it's not
Exactly.
financially advantageous to them.
Exactly.
It's a way to mitigate their losses, and they know they're going to take a loss, but it might be less of a loss, right? So the goal
Yes.
is not for them to take over the property from your perspective or from their perspective. Neither one of you wants them to take over the property. So trying to negotiate something else is really important. Yes.
Yes.
So it's so weird that they would begin that process. So
And
like when they really
so
have no right to do so.
So, well, ultimately with us, it was, we were immediately, because this is the first time we've ever been through it. We did, I will take a little bit of fault on this. We immediately jumped to like speaking to the owner of the lending company, um, and was like, look, like you need to kind of get whatever's going on under control, because we have the documentation to prove that we made all the payments properly. Um, and that kind of ultimately just ended up backfiring on us.
Oh,
And they now, because we are showing a flaw in their system, just I'm sure as everybody knows, some people don't like to be told that they have flaws. And in this particular hard money company, they have made multiple changes in leadership and employees during the life of the loan that we've had with them, which
mhm.
has caused a lot of confusion. And again, their systems are not operating properly, which is not my fault, but we did call them out on it. And so I will take the hit on that. However, I'm again just trying to, that was to cover us and to cover other investors, right? So
Yeah. So they're
um
mad at you for calling them out.
yes, and so they're essentially, we will no longer be doing business with this company, which is terrible because we've had about almost a 5-year relationship with them.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate, but again, silver lining that comes out of this
Yeah.
is that um, we have a new exit strategy, and we are going to be moving forward and taking this as a learning experience. And now everything happens for a reason. We have now been through this for, or we're still going through legal side of it, right? But we're gaining all of this knowledge that again, like you said earlier, Carrie, if I'm on the outside looking in on someone else's situation, I can learn all day long,
Hmm.
but it's a completely different experience if you're in it and
Yeah.
you're going through it and you're having to fight the fight
Yeah.
and have the conversation. Um, so yeah, so I do want to speak a little bit about what you can do upon exits and how you can
Yeah. Tell us about
change your exit
your
strategy.
planned next strategy. I'm excited.
Yeah, so one of the houses, so again we have two houses. One house is, and if you're interested on purchasing either one of them, they promise they're in good standing. Reach out to me.
So wait, let's back up. Let's back up. So there's two properties that you guys were flipping.
Yeah,
Okay, so these are not part of the buy and hold portfolio that you guys were building. These were
that's
two
great.
flips that you were happening to do, and I think you started these before you even found the boutique hotel, right? Like this has been a long term
Hmm.
project. These have been working on for a while, um,
Yeah,
and so they're both finished being flipped, and they're both on the market. And you
yep.
had staged, partially staged both of them.
One of them was completely staged. So the first one that we started is on Lake Blue Ridge, 6 acres, massive house with a pool. We put it up, fully furnished home for sale.
Hmm.
So that's the first one. Now this is the one that has been illegally foreclosed on.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the big property. So we'll call it property A for these purposes. But if you still want information, just reach out to me personally. So property A is going through the illegal foreclosure. So at this point, because the relationship with the hard money lender has gone south, we are making a pivot. So if you've never heard the term, don't throw good money with bad money.
After bad.
Um,
Yeah, don't throw good money after
that's
bad.
right. Don't throw good money after bad. And so we're moving forward from that. So we have actually now went and pulled all of the furniture from that property because we don't know what's going to happen. So we've pulled everything and we've actually shifted it to property B. Now, property B is a little bit smaller, but it's on Lake Blue Ridge. It's on deep water. Um, but it makes the perfect short-term rental. So what are we going to do to get out of our relationship as quick as possible with this hard money lender? We're now moving forward and we're going to refinance out with them, use the money, throw it back into the deal after paying our investor we have on this one out some money. and ultimately just short-term rent it. In our state, we have to pull it off of the market. We can rent it for 6 months and then relist it. And at the 6-month mark, it's considered a business, right? So we can move forward and present those numbers. So that's our exit strategy for that. And then for the new one, or for property A, essentially we're going to have to let it go through, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen on that. We are still pushing to get a buyer for it to be purchased, and that's ultimately would be the best goal for us, for the hard money lender, for our investors. But it's all in whether or not they're willing to work through this relationship and understand the benefits to continue to allow us to sell it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
So
like
if
we're
I'm hearing you
still
right, you
pushing.
took all the furniture out of property A, you put it into property B, so that it's property B is fully furnished. You're gonna start short-term renting it, and that'll be really fun to see. And then with property A, you're just going to kind of continue to try to find a buyer for that property, but not fully furnished anymore. And you'll hopefully find a buyer before this crazy illegal foreclosure process comes to a head. Otherwise, you're still seeking legal counsel to try to end that.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So that's what we're doing. So ultimately, again, like biggest lessons is when you're going through this, don't throw good money at bad. Do your profit and losses. Have the conversations around that with your investors, and again, like make sure that your personal guarantee with them is secured. So we were able to work out terms with them. Turns out they were very understanding when we we're honest and open with them. And they were like, look, like some other things that we have going on personally have gone awry. So they needed money. So ultimately what we did, we took our holdings that we had back for, security purposes. And we just did them a lump sum payout to get them started. And then we worked out a payout option monthly until it sells or we know what happens with that. So we worked out other terms with them, which is great. And we are very thankful for their flexibility and their understanding again. And they've also told us, like, we are totally willing to invest with you guys in the future because you were honest. You've worked something out with us. You've let us know. And obviously, with the documentation, we're able to prove to them it was not our fault.
Well, yeah, you went to them. I mean, what does that say about you, right? So if I'm an investor and I've given you money and you come to me and tell me there's a problem, I've found the following options for solutions. I mean, like, that's amazing. That's what you want in an investor. So it's great that they're saying we'll continue to invest with you.
Exactly. And so yeah, I think that it's great. And just leading off of that, Carrie, we do have an episode coming up at the end of the month with an investor herself. She's actually one of our largest investors, and she is the largest investor on our hotel. And I can't wait to ask her those questions, right? Yeah. And so just preluding to that, you guys stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned.
Yes, that's going to be a great interview. I can't wait. She's just so knowledgeable on investing. But yeah, I think that I just want to share that experience with everybody and let you guys know that there are different exit strategies that can come from it, and there are silver linings that you can pull. So, biggest silver lining in all, I will just bear it all to you guys. This thing that in the market right now, if you're not aware, anything over $1 million is not moving. Well, guess what? Both of my properties are sitting at 1.4, 1.7, 2.4. Like they're all that's the range that they're in. So they're not moving, guys. No one wants to pay that, a jumbo loan interest rate right now.
Interest rates are high right now. Yeah.
And so it's just too much, and which is fine. We're just looking for a particular avatar, right? So again, no bad mojo towards either one of the deals. It's just we are now looking for a specific buyer. And the silver lining that's come out of this is that when it did get listed as foreclosure, people flocked on it. And so, but we do have to have that power struggle fight of like, it's not foreclosing, like we're still in good standing, we need real offers. But it has brought a
Buyers
lot
probably
of
think
people.
they can get like a steal of a deal because it has the word foreclosure in it. So
Yeah. So the good thing is the property is showing, and we actually have two very interested buyers in both properties. So hopefully, and y'all just send good vibes our way, because we're sending good vibes out to the universe, and they are going to send us a contract next week, and
woo-hoo.
we're going to accept both of them.
Hopefully by the time this even hits, like,
Yep.
like
Hopefully by the time this episode hits, we will be under contract and no more legal counsel will be needed. So, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that you're going through that. Thanks for being honest and transparent and sharing, because I think there's so much that we all can learn from that. And like I was saying, it's easier to learn when you're listening to it and you're not the one in it, right? So this is a great lesson. So I think that's all we have for this particular episode. But if you are watching live, we're going to go live again in a few minutes with a totally different topic.
Yeah. So if you have questions on the next one, hit us up in the Facebook group. But just if you're watching right now, the next one is going to be kind of like a live Q&A. So if you have questions, we'd love for you to comment them. It's just what do you want to know about investing, and if you're getting started or if you're in it, what questions do you have? So
yeah, for those
forward to that episode.
Type things, we will see them while we're talking. So please do.
Yep, absolutely.
Yay.
Well, thank you guys. We appreciate this. And we appreciate you tuning in to She Invests.
Bye.
Bye.